Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name's Hayden.
And we are this week going to be diving into our story.
Wow.
Our journey. We both taught for 10 years in schools. I taught for 10 years, definitely not 9, definitely 10. Definitely not one less than you. And we had a few people message us saying about like, oh, how did you meet each other? What did you do? What's your story? Who are you? Like, why should I listen to you remotely talk about education?
Yeah, why am I even messaging you?
Yeah, what's going on right now in this situation? And I just thought it'd be good for all the new listeners as well. I looked back at the episodes and we haven't actually spoken about our story in a long time. And even when we did, it wasn't really in detail.
They're like pockets of things, weren't they?
Yeah. So I thought it'd be nice to actually just dive into who we are, our story through teaching, and eventually we left teaching.
Absolutely.
So I think it's going to be something that resonates with a lot of people, whether they're at the stage of, at the start of their career, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed and wanting to do the best, whether they're thinking, oh, is this for me? Whether they've left teaching altogether, there'll be something for everyone. And hopefully it gives us a bit of validation as well.
Yeah.
People understand, oh, these guys, okay, right, they do maybe know.
And they are also relatively normal human beings. Also
well,
relatively. I did say relatively.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, no problem. So I'm going to start straight away.
Go on then.
Hayden, did you always want to be a teacher, or was it just those who can't teach, so you have to end up doing that, I guess?
Classic. When I was a kid, I didn't obviously think, oh, I'm going to be a teacher when I'm older. I wanted to do like something to do with media or acting or art or film, something like that. Maybe something mathsy, something completely different, but often people say art and maths are quite well linked. Don't know, but that was kind of my passion. It wasn't until I did a work experience placement when I was like 16, whenever you do work experience, and I got placed in a school, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Lucky for me, I got placed with a really nice teacher who embraced the fact they had a 16-year-old, probably objectively quite annoying, in their classroom, and just worked with some kids. And I was like, this is kind of cool. I think that planted the seed. And then I still went back to media, went off and did a degree in film, radio, and television. Wasted 3 years because I basically never went in. Racked up some debt. It was pretty stupid, really, but got the uni experience, as they say. And then that finished. I tried to get into the industry, realized it was not for me. Like it's very cutthroat, full of like these super confident people. That was just not me, especially then. Like I'm probably a bit more confident now, but really still inside, I'm just that person who's a bit shy. And like that was a bit scary to me. I was like, wow, that was a huge mistake. And then I was like, I wonder if that teaching thing was a good idea. Went back in, volunteered at my local school that I went to, and it didn't take me long from then to go, this is really nice. This is really wholesome. I thoroughly enjoy the kind of people that work here. I thoroughly enjoy working and supporting with children. It felt great just to help someone get something. And from there, that was it. I just was like, cool, PGCE. I didn't think twice about it. Just signed up for PGCE, managed to get in, and the rest is history. 1 year course, and then bang, I was in teaching. What was the situation for you?
Quite similar, to be fair. I never thought I wanted to be a teacher, to be perfectly honest with you, but I had a really good experience at school. I think a lot of teachers do have good experiences with school. I know a lot of teachers who didn't, and actually they're really good teachers because of it, and they don't do the misgivings that they had basically done to them when they were at school. But yeah, I didn't know what I was going to do, to be honest with you. Like you, I went to university. I very much felt like I was a byproduct of the funnel of, you went to a grammar school, you're going to university, so we had to pick something. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know what I want to do. And in my A levels, I did history and maths and physics. I could have done any of them, to be honest with you, because I enjoyed all of them. But I got my best mark and my highest performance was in history. So I did history at university. Again, much like you, I didn't really spend a lot of time going into university. I didn't really engage with it too much. That's my own problem. I get that. But like all got the experience, like you said. Finished up, and I was working part-time since sixth form. So for like 4 or 5 years, working part-time at local ASDA. And it got to the end of my PGCE, and I still really didn't quite know what I wanted to do. So there was an opportunity there to be the what's the word, the leader, section leader or something they'd call it. ASDA, basically where they'd make you the manager but not pay your manager wages.
Do you mean the end of your degree, not your PGCE?
Sorry, the end of my degree. My end of my 3-year degree. So I went full-time doing that. And within 2 weeks, I was just like, I don't want to do this. Like the amount of responsibility and stuff. And like, I was basically on shop floor wages, and I was just like, that's not for me. And I was in the bakery. Why was I in charge of the bloody bakery?
You can't bake anything.
Honestly, I was like 22 in charge of a bakery. Never once baked anything in my life. And I was talking to bakers saying, oh, have you got the bread ready? So I don't know what I'm talking about.
They're like, yes, nonsense. Mate, of course. Do you know what my job is? Of course I got the bread ready, you idiot.
Literally.
Oh, cheers.
But so in that year, I actually did quite a few things where I submitted my CV to like recruiters, and I got a few opportunities to go up to London. I had some interviews, some big group interviews for recruitment, basically. So I gave my CV to recruiters, and they tried to place me in recruitment as well.
That's hilarious.
And I got a week's trial in a London office recruiting for tech companies, and for like so basically what happens with a lot of people who work in tech like that, they just are freelance and work contract to contract. So like we'd get a job in from a big bank. It was like a 12-month contract. You need certain qualifications or experience in writing code in certain languages, and then you'd call them up and say, "I've got this contract here. It's a 12-month contract. It's £200,000. You'd be doing this, this, and this. I see you're suitable for the role. We've matched you up. Would you be interested in this?" Loads of cold calling.
Yeah. Okay.
80-90% of the time they weren't interested. And they're just like, "Oh no, that's all right, thank you, bye." Or the phone didn't have. That was not for me.
Yeah. I
Oh
can't
my
imagine
goodness
you
me.
doing that.
Not only is it social interaction, which I struggle with at the best of times, it's salesy, it's pushy.
Repetitive, the same thing over and over.
Right, and I didn't know what I was trying to sell. Like right now, when we talk about Mathsu, where we're currently at, where we built a maths platform,
Yeah.
and it's our passion, and it doesn't feel like sales at all because it's just what I'm passionate about and what I think will help
and
people.
we built it.
Exactly. Whereas this was like, oh yes, you'll be doing your C++ or your JavaScript. Isn't that fantastic? I didn't know what I was talking
you
about.
were just reading off a script.
Yeah, literally, I had no idea. Anyway, so 1.5 days into that week, I remember going into the boss and just saying, "I'm not going to carry on. Sorry, this isn't for me." And I just went home.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I started thinking about teaching was in the back of my mind for a little bit through this because I thought there was actually a teacher in the office who used to be a teacher and was now doing recruitment. So I spoke to him a bit.
Right.
He was a music teacher in secondary and he said he loved it, but he wanted to make more money because there was a lot more commission that you could make in there.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, fair enough. I want to start my career.
Classic.
So I did some days at my old grammar school, went back in for a couple of days because I thought maybe I'll do secondary history.
Oh, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah. So I went back in there, shadowed a couple of my old teachers for a day. It was fun, but there was one day where a teacher taught the same year 8 lesson 4 times in a row. They just happened to have they happened to have 4 year 8 classes all in one day. And I just watched the same lesson 4 times in a row. And I was like, well, I'm bored now.
Yeah.
I can't see myself doing this. I wonder what primary's like. Went into primary, loved it. And I think a big thing you're picking up on what you said, the people who work in primary schools mostly are such good people.
Really nice.
Exactly that. And like the atmosphere coming from like the recruitment process and it being a bit more business and cutthroat, although there's benefits to that in terms of maybe your pay packet might be more. Personally, I think it's all about the team you work with in any environment, and schools in general tend to have really good teams and good people involved. Not saying you can't get that elsewhere in the private sector. You absolutely can. We work with people now who are unbelievable and I love working with them. But hedging your bets, like most people in the school are really good, nice people to work with. Did that for a few days, went to the PGC, applied for the PGC, got onto it. And that was my journey really up until training. So what was your specific training route? Because we both did PGC, didn't we?
Yeah. So yours was PGC Maths Specialism, which you love to randomize. Right, mine was just PGC. It was the last year where that was the only version of it that you could do, and you just got to It was the same sort of thing. You picked your specialism within the course.
You still chose maths.
I still chose maths and probably did exactly what
you had. My
did.
tutor as well.
We literally did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, what you learned the year after was the same thing I did, but I had to pick it, and other people didn't pick that. But we were all under the umbrella of the same course.
Yeah.
It wasn't from the outset like, oh, you're the maths specialist version of the course. Anyway, it was a bit different. So, it was a. I'm sure you had the same thing. It was a crazy year.
PGC is absolutely wild.
Like madness. And I remember someone saying to me, they were like, well, yeah, you are doing the 3-year course in 1 year. Like realistically, you do need to come out with as much of that knowledge that people get in the 3-year course as you do. Like you can't just, you're not just going to lose 2 years worth of the knowledge and come out with a third of the knowledge.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's like you still have to learn, even if it's slightly more superficial, because it's just, you are restrained by time. You still need to learn everything about the job to go and do the job. And I was always like, yeah, that is actually kind of crazy, isn't it? That people are spending 3 years and I'm spending 1 year doing that. I know Lauren did the 3-year course.
Do you regret that? Like, do you like, even though it's more intense, do you think that having some experience doing something else or having a 3-year course in something else where at least your options were open for a bit longer?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good thing? Or looking back, do you think, well, I might as well have just done a 3-year course and just gone straight into it?
I don't know. It's so hard because obviously I only know what I've done. What I can tell you is I think that was perfect for me. The PGC being 1 year and crammed like that actually made me do it. The 3-year course I did before that was too relaxed, and therefore I just didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
I actually think if I'd done the 3-year teaching course, I just would have got bored and like I would have stopped taking it as seriously because I needed the intensity of that PGC year to make me fully absorbed in it.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just timing as well. Perhaps no matter what I did when I was 18, it all would have failed because I was 18 and maybe that was the problem. Do you know what I mean? But when I was 22, coming into this PGCE and I'd had a bit of experience and I was a bit more like, okay, I want to try and sort my life out now because actually I also, like you, did a year working at Tesco in that gap year before.
Mm.
I didn't go full time. You actually
Sorry, I
worked.
was Green Army.
Yeah,
I
yes.
was Asda, not like you, I'm
Yeah,
afraid.
we were not friends then.
No.
I still didn't even go full time there. I was just honestly a bit of a waster. I was just didn't know what I was doing. I
Yeah.
was just like with the wind, all over the place. But
Mm.
PGC locked me in,
Mm.
and that was what I needed. So
Yeah.
3 year, I don't know, probably would have been.
Did you think it was? Did you think training was adequate? Like when you were going through it? Because I personally, the training year, my PGCE year, I've said this before, was my favorite year in education. As in personally, when I was being like educated, I was a pupil.
Yeah, yeah,
It was my
Same.
favorite. It was
Same.
my favorite year because it really felt like I was really narrowing down onto a skill, which is teaching. I know there's loads to do with teaching, but it's the one thing you're doing. I felt really busy all the time. I felt like it was my chance to really throw myself into something, and I felt like I was good at it, and I enjoyed being in a school. And I was with really good people. I was very lucky. Like we've still got friends now who I trained with at the time, who we know are local and still be teaching.
Yeah, yeah.
Some have left, some haven't. But it was just such a good experience, and I absolutely loved it, and I can see why some people might not thrive in a PGC and other routes might be better for them. You have schools direct where you can earn money as you go through now.
Exactly.
You like you said, you got the 3 year course. I don't think there's one size that fits all, but I think it's important to find something that suits you because if you enjoy it, you're going to get more out of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad there's lots more routes now and it's a lot more accessible to get in. One thing that's always been on my mind, I would love to know your answer to this is, do you think that it was appropriate or do you think it's the best model that when you were 22, you got the choice to do the PGCE because you had done a degree in the past versus another 22-year-old who maybe hadn't done a degree, they're not given the option to do the PGCE. Do you think that's fair? Do you think it was like, well, yeah, because I've done a degree before and that's what makes me able to do it in a year? Or do you think they're not really tangible?
I think that goes into more of to like how flawed the system is in general of just does a degree make you a certain caliber,
Yeah.
right? As I think in general, I think sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Because mine's not.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Depends what the degree was.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. Like there are degrees out there that are worth more than others. I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly.
And it makes more sense, I think, when if I'd done a history degree and gone on to be a secondary history teacher.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense,
Sure.
doesn't it?
Sure.
If I had a history degree, I wanted to be a primary history math specialist. What they would look at for me to go into the math specialist course and to get a certain bursary level and actually like fund it was my A level results. You had to get a B or more at A level. And they didn't really care what you did at university.
Right.
You just had to have had that university degree level education. So I think there's something to be said of getting to that certain level of education. It shows that you can get through a course, you can do something. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's why it's good there are other routes now because yeah, you can still have the PGC. It can still be an education route. It can still be like leading on from university. But if that was the only way to do stuff, I think that'd be flawed.
Yeah. I always felt really lucky. I always felt really lucky that I chose to, on a whim, really go to uni the first time, even though I didn't take it remotely seriously and genuinely probably got nothing from it. I was like, oh, I'm so glad I kind of accidentally did that because if I was in the same situation now as a 22-year-old and I was faced with my only option is you've got to do a 3 year course now. Let's imagine I hadn't gone to uni in this
Yeah,
situation.
but or you could train on the job, like a lot of people do.
Yeah,
now.
of course. But to me at the time, I was like, I only knew of these two. I just thought these were my only options. I could do the PGC or the 3 year course.
Yeah.
If the PGC was locked to me, I reckon I wouldn't have chosen to do the 3 year course, and I probably would have gone on to do something else.
Yeah, been a
So
bum.
like for me, a bit of a bum. For me, it was a bit of a savior that I had that option to be like, okay, you can do this rapid. You can do it in 1 year. I was like, cool, give me that.
Yeah, that's why I always don't like saying that university was a complete waste of time because it kind of
It
was part of the stepping stone to get somewhere.
opened the door.
But I also do think university was a waste of time in a lot of ways, and I'm glad now there's more ways to go around stuff and still become a teacher, and I could have still been really good. If honestly, I could have done absolutely nothing in that history degree, and I wouldn't have been a worse teacher. Like it didn't make me better.
That's
or worse.
kind of what I was trying to get at. Yeah,
you know, I think I would have got everything I would have got out about the PGC itself. So I do think it's a flawed system in a way, but I understand why that exists.
Yeah, sure. That's basically what I was trying to get at. So when you were in your placement school, do you have any particular memories? Did anything come back to you like a particularly strong memory or a terrible moment or a fantastic moment or something like that?
Just thinking now, two things stick out. First, this is not one of the two things, but I will say I was so lucky with my placement teachers.
Yeah.
I had Fran and Nicole.
Yeah.
So they were year 4. I was with year 4 with Fran, and I was in year 6 with Nicole when I went back in for my long placements. And they were just unbelievable. Not only were they amazing teachers, they were just really helpful and nice people as well. So that's the first thing I'll say. That's so lucky, I think. And my mentor was good to me as well. And so things that stick out to me was it was like the first or second week. Both of these things happened really early. The school that I was being trained in and that you were in, funnily enough,
I was working
you were
there.
working there, you in your first year, was going through the process of becoming an academy.
Yes.
And they were also going through the process at the time of talking about pay and stuff and restructuring. Da, 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 da. And I remember being sat in the back corner of the classroom. It was just me and the class teacher was at the front doing the work. We were just both working whilst the kids were somewhere else. I think they might have been in assembly. And one of the teachers came into the classroom and spoke to Fran and was saying, "Oh, God, this is just ridiculous. How are we not getting paid for this? It's just unfair. It's ridiculous what we have to go through. This profession." Da, da, da. But venting as you would about the profession. And she just looked at me after and went, "I didn't realize you were here." Sorry, because she didn't want to
This
put me
new
off.
starry-eyed
Yeah, like
teacher.
exactly, ready to get going. And she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "I want to hear this stuff.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
good. Like, yeah, please be real about it. What am I just going to wait until I qualified to find out that this is the case? Like,
Yeah.
it's good for me to hear this stuff." So I always remember that because she was like horrified, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, please don't be." And then the second thing was very quickly, my class teacher had to have the day off for some reason, and obviously the school were just like, "Oh, we do have a student." But bearing in mind, this is like my second week of being in a school, and I think I taught a starter for 10 minutes, and they were like, "Would you mind teaching for the day?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not going to say
Oh
no."
my God, I'd be
Do you know what I
terrified.
mean? I'm not going to say no,
No,
though.
of course
Do you know,
not,
Like,
'cause you're
yeah,
trying to be like, "Oh."
exactly. I'm going to throw myself into it. And do you know what? I did it,
Yeah.
and I struggled by the afternoon. I really struggled, and I was absolutely knackered by the
Yeah,
end of the
yeah,
day.
yeah.
Maths went all right. English was okay. Afternoon really struggled. Had some bad behaviors in the class. Had
Yeah.
children having meltdowns. Had to call the head to come around and actually help
Oh
me.
no.
It was a bit of a nightmare, but do you know what? It was good to do. Genuinely,
yeah.
genuinely for my personality
you, I was
and
gonna say.
me. For other people, it might put them off and they'll never step
Yeah.
foot again.
Too anxiety
But
inducing.
for me, actually, do you know what? I finished that and I thought, I'm only going to improve and get better at this job. And I got through this day,
Yeah.
and it's fine.
I think that would have tipped me over the edge. In this exact same scenario at that point, I was so nervous and anxious about even being in front of the kids. Like that would have been like, I would have been like, "Oh, I need to go home.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm sorry, but I
Yeah.
can't. I'm not prepared.
Yeah.
I cannot do that."
And that's fine. What about you?
Yeah, the only thing that I've told this story a few times. I don't know if I told it in the pod, but I liked reflecting on it because I think there's some interesting points from it, right? And ultimately, it's kind of a story to do with understanding how important safeguarding is, really, in schools.
Right.
On one of the first days I turned up for my placement, I was in a year 1 class, and I remember standing in the classroom, sort of being like, "Oh God, I don't know what to do." Like the teacher had just gone out of the room to go and sort something. I'm just standing there like a lemon, and in come a child from the playground that had like early morning play, so school was just about to start. And 2 adults brought this little girl in, and she'd like fallen over and hurt herself. She was crying a little bit, and they were just going to sit her in this little like shed area bit, right by where they were. So they were just going to be the other side of the door, standing there, and she was just going to be sat down right next to them. But she was inside, and they went to leave her to be sat like, "You'll be all right, darling. I'm just going to stand here so I can keep my eyes on the playground and be outside." And then they looked up and saw me, and I saw them visibly change their minds in that moment, probably thinking, "Oh, actually, there's a man that I don't recognize over there. I'm now not going to leave this child alone." And in the moment, I remember feeling really offended. I was thinking, "Oh, typical. Oh, just because I'm a bloke, you think I can't be around. You think I can't be around children. How typical. What a stereotype." And I remember in my head being really offended at the idea that, "Oh, right, you don't think she's safe around me because I'm a man. Brilliant."
Yeah.
But in retrospect,
No, it's because you're a stranger.
yeah, I know. Like I look back now and I'm like, no, I'm just an unknown person standing in the classroom.
Also, I do think that's odd. Like when I listen to the detail of that story, because they're either leaving her alone or they're not.
I know. I think they shouldn't have been doing that.
Right. Because I was going to say, like, either, if the problem is, "Oh, we can't leave you alone with that person." What? So you can leave them alone
With
when there's no
one.
one there?
Yeah, exactly,
That's also bad.
I think they were in that grey area of they justified to themselves.
Maybe it was
I'm just
that.
going to stand here at the door anyway. But technically, it might even been that. Yeah, they might be thinking, "Oh, there's someone there that might call out the fact that I probably shouldn't be doing this."
Exactly.
So, but in the moment, I absolutely just thought it was a personal attack, and they were like, "Oh no, there's a man over there. He's probably a weirdo because he's a man in a school."
No. Do you
Very
know what?
much playing up that.
With a child, take people maybe thinking that, wouldn't
I
you?
agree.
For the sake of keeping them safe. Do you know what I mean?
agree.
Like you just say,
"Oh, your feelings are hurt."
"Yeah, I just don't know who you are, mate. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't think this is prejudicial, whoever the word might be.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are, so I'm just going to make sure that I'm with this child." And by the way, you basically called their bluff a bit there because they were going to try and get away with it by just
I
being on
think
their
so.
own.
Yeah. So on reflection over the years, I think there was a lot more little avenues to that story that I didn't consider at the time. And one, it talks about it. It's a lesson about safeguarding. Number two, it's a lesson about like not taking everything at face value. There might be deeper meaning there than you think.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff came from it on reflection, and how also just over time you do just learn more and you have a better understanding of nuances of how schools work.
Well,
All those things.
it is important because you don't have that when you start teaching.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can we can't make everyone understand that straight away. But I think if we can just say to people like, don't necessarily assume the worst.
Yeah,
It could
exactly
just
that.
be that we're trying to look
Exactly
after
that.
kids. One other thing, last thing I remember is I was in year 6 after Christmas in my second placement towards the end of the school year. They went on residential trip, and me and the other student teacher, who were both in year 6 at the time, we planned and did the events for the children who were staying.
I did the exact same
So it
thing.
was Rainforest Week,
Yeah.
and we did all rainforest stuff. We did tie-dye. It was me and someone called Mia. We both did it together. We both planned it, and we had like 15 kids for the week. And again, cynically, you might look at it and think, "Oh, they're just getting you to plan it. It's easy for them." It's like, well, yeah, you are a student, and that's part of the job as
Yeah,
well.
you're learning that.
And you know what? It was so fun,
Mm.
and we kind of had the freedom to be like, "Well, it's Rainforest Week. Plan whatever you want." And that it invigorated me, inspired me. We had so much fun. It was nice, and like it was a good thing. And I don't just think. I want to say to people now, like who are going through this phase of being a student teacher, like don't just think extra work is always bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was extra work, but it was the best week ever, and I really enjoyed it, and it helped me. Again, just fostering that experience of understanding the line between what's fun, what's helpful, having bonds with the children. It just made everything more clear to me, and I really enjoyed it, and the kids loved it. It was so fun.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny enough. I did in my second placement in year 6. Also went on residential, and I kept back the other kids, and we did some sort of project-based thing, and it was really fun. So that's quite funny how we had the same sort of experience there.
Probably very common.
Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah. So, getting your first job, I felt that's a big one.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you, going from placements to actually you're employed now?
So we had different journeys, didn't we? Because in PGCE, the way it works is you do have 2 placement schools that you go to.
Yeah.
But for the vast majority of the time, you're in one school.
That's right.
So you had like a 6 or 7 week placement, I think, before Christmas. And then you had another like 8 or 9 week placement after Christmas towards the end of the year, both in the same school. For me, that was in a local junior school. And then you have an alternate placement in the middle between Christmas and Easter, I think, where it was literally, I think it was just 1 or 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And the idea is it's supposed to be like in a different key stage.
Yeah.
So I went to an infant school for a couple of weeks in another local area. And that cemented to me that I did want to stay in a junior school or move higher up the kids. But yeah, in terms of getting a job in the school where my main placement was, a few jobs came up. I think 2 jobs came up, and I obviously applied for one and got one.
Yeah.
So for me, the whole process of finding a job, and we'll go on to moving schools later, but in general, I've never really genuinely had to go through the rigmarole of going on websites, finding jobs, applying, putting CVs out there. I did it a bit in my PGC year because I wasn't sure what was happening.
Yeah.
But as soon as that job became available and I said I wanted that job, it was quite an informal process of, okay, well, yeah, sure, just apply, write this down. We'll have a interview and just a chat to make sure we're not, but we know you really well.
Yeah.
So for me, it was quite seamless and not an issue at all. Probably the best version, genuinely, of how to get a job. But you was very different.
Mine was quite funny because it was a good lesson, and it's typical me. You're gonna laugh. It was good against my arrogance and my ego here. Got the best of me. In my placement school, exact same situation. Job came up. I was like, brilliant. I've had a great 2 placements. I'm pally with everyone here. It's genuinely just going really well. Getting good gradings, all the observations. I was like, it's a no-brainer. Of course they're going to employ me. Of course they are. New head came in during that.
Oh.
I had no interaction with this head, by the way, before this point. So she had no reason to have any bias towards me. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just a random student in the school that she's not even seen or heard of, right? And so I rocked up to this interview thinking, I got this in the bag. Did not prepare enough remotely. Taught this one lesson where it was a maths lesson. I was like, easy for me, maths. They had projectors at the school. I've been doing all my lessons on projectors. Prepared my whole lesson for this projector lesson. Went into the classroom I was teaching. No projector. Didn't work. Had to adapt on the spot. Didn't know how to do that yet. My skill set was not there. Taught the worst lesson possible. Went to the interview. I was already rattled by this point. Did the interview. Clearly didn't prepare enough. Didn't answer a few of the questions maybe as well as I could. I could see that visibly she just was not impressed already. That's rattling me even more. Couldn't have flunked it harder if I tried. And then in her, I think I even spelt her name wrong in like a letter like I put in the first place. Like it was like spelt with an IE, but I put it with an I or something like that. Like, And the literal first thing was, firstly, it's probably important to just get the name right of the person
They
that's
said that.
employee. Said that to me, so it completely embarrassed me, like rightfully,
Yeah,
genuinely, because
yeah.
it was just stupid of me not
Weren't
to
going
do
to
that.
hire you after
They
that.
were going to hire that, and then at that point I already knew. And then it just said, like, we've rejected you. This was at the beginning of my second placement, so I then had to do the rest. I had like 8 more weeks of working at this school,
Oh
knowing they don't
no.
want to employ me. It felt really
How did you
embarrassing.
deal with that?
I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed at first, and I just sort of had to, what I'm like. I just had to make everything a bit of banter, a bit of joke, even though I was mortified inside.
Mm.
And the class teacher I was with was really nice about it. He was just making me cool. He's like, mate, this is just what it is. It doesn't matter. It's like a puzzle. You're just not the right fit for it. It doesn't mean you're a bad teacher. It's just you messed up your interview.
You are a bad teacher.
You're a good teacher, but you didn't put enough into your interview. Just face it. It didn't go quite how you wanted.
Right.
You're not what she wants right now. She wants something that brings
You
something else
needed
to the
that
table.
probably, right?
It did. It was useful to me. So then I was like, cool. I'll apply at the alternate placement school that I went to instead. They've got a job as well. Went in there, taught, and another horrendous lesson. I was way too ambitious. I was like, I'll show them all this new stuff I know about bar modeling.
Right.
Went in and tried to teach a bar modeling lesson to a bunch of year 5s who've never seen bar modeling in a 15-minute lesson.
No.
Stupidest decision I could have ever made, because obviously they spent the whole time being like, what the hell is this guy
You just
talking
added
about?
cognitive load, haven't you?
Literally, right? And there's me thinking I'll wow them with this awesome Singapore math style thing.
Couldn't care less.
Couldn't care less. Went awful. Didn't get the job there either. I was like, cool, brilliant. So the 2 placements where I've worked in don't want to hire me. I was completely deflated by this point. And then luckily for me, that a head teacher, kind of at the school I ended up working in, the same one you got a job in, the head teacher's daughter was in my class, in my placement class, and had the daughter luckily gone home and said, oh, he's really nice, this teacher. So that was enough for the head teacher to be like, oh, okay, I'm interested. Are you looking for jobs still? And if you are, we'll do an observation, but I'll just come to you. I was like, perfect, because I know this class. That's clearly what's been messing me up here. We're going to other classes thinking I know what I'm doing. And she came to me, observed me, was like, yeah, cool, that'll do. Gave me a job. And I was like, thank God for that, because I was starting to get to the point where I was like, cool, so apparently I'm rubbish at this, and I'm not going to make it, and it's getting a bit late now, and I'm not going to get a job for September.
It's quite common occurrence that a lot of people listening who might have had a similar experience, but a lot of the time in general, something does pop up.
Yeah,
it does pop up, and it
happens, and it knocked my confidence. It did, but it didn't take long for it to come back. Like that
Not for you.
That ego and arrogance was there again. The second she walked out of the room, was like, I'll employ you. I was like, yeah, see, easy, told you. Went straight to that head teacher of that placement, said, I've been employed by this other school actually. Thank you, goodbye.
So we both got a job. You're 1 year ahead of me. So obviously our NQT years, back when we did it, NQT was just 1 year. They obviously didn't overlap. You were doing NQT for a year. Your NQT year was whilst I was training.
Yep.
My NQT year was just then you were just a teacher then at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, how did you find those first years? I'd say first year or 2 or 3 even at the start of your career. What was it like in terms of what you expected of the job?
Yep.
How did you handle the jump from training to actually being a teacher? What were the biggest differences or challenges do you think you faced?
Biggest difference and challenge for me was that just like the support network, even though it was still there, it's obviously extremely heavy when you're training. There's no longer another class teacher in there that you can always fall back on. It's now your class.
Yeah.
That for me was terrifying. My first few weeks, probably months actually, my first few months in my NQT year, I really was like, I was anxious every day. Like I had big old sweat patches every day, not just because it was hot, because I was genuinely just like, when you're just nervous, your body just sweat, like that sort of level of anxious.
You got 32 kids there.
Exactly, right? And I didn't have another class teacher in the room until I could just be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I just had to basically wing it when I didn't know what I was doing until I understood what I was doing.
Important to say to people, you're going to wing it in your first. You are going to wing it. No one thinks that they've nailed it or has nailed it in that first couple of years. Accept it and don't beat yourself up about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm glad I didn't, because I didn't beat myself up about it, because I knew that was true. And you know what? By the sort of halfway through that first year, I felt great. And then by my second year of teaching, I felt awesome. I loved this job. I was already there. I was fully absorbed in that job by then. I think it only took me that sort of first year to feel like I found my feet.
I was going to say that. At what point did you start feeling more confident then? Because I think I tricked myself into it by just pretending I was confident.
Yeah.
Like I really struggled to actually think when I actually became fully confident. Because if I think about the end of my career, I'm so confident in the job that I was doing that I felt like I could walk into any room and just deliver a good lesson, whether I had all the resources or not. I got to that point. And at the start of my career, I felt like everything had to be planned meticulously and I had to make sure everything was perfect. Clearly, somewhere in that journey, I became past the point of just like full confidence. But I think that actually happened much later than I convinced myself.
Right. Yeah.
I felt probably more confident than I should have been much earlier on in my career, because I always got nice feedback, always got good praise, always got, it felt like, oh, I'm really good at what I'm doing. I don't know how useful it was necessarily did it paper over cracks, for example,
Mm,
where I needed to work on stuff a bit quicker. I think there was a good balance there, and you have to fake it till you make it. Is the point I'm making
definitely,
here?
and it took its time. It took its
Yeah.
time. So with we've if listeners of this podcast will know, because we talk about it all the time, that we obviously love maths, and we've spent the vast majority of our careers as maths leads, or at least as part of the maths leadership, if it's been a team or whatever. So do you want to just give like a little just insight into your journey from just being purely classroom teacher into the world of subject leadership?
Well, I don't know how it works now, but back then we had like hubs in our school because
Mm.
we're quite a large school in
I
our
think that's
first
probably why,
school.
because it was a big school.
Yeah, it was a large school, so we had hubs where you would have a maths lead, you'd have an English lead,
Mm.
but you'd have a hub where, oh, I'm on the maths hub, in terms of you go to meetings with the maths lead and you as a team coordinate your plans for maths as a
Yeah,
subject.
yeah.
So I was on the maths hub pretty much straight away.
Mm.
I think our maths hub was called Logic Led.
It was called Logic
Logic
Led.
Led, because we did an escape room. We
Logic
called ourselves
Led.
Logic Led.
Yes, it was
It was all
Logic
like
Led.
very
That's
corporate, like
hilarious.
funny names, Logic Led.
Yeah.
And in our first year, I think when I was training, I think went to a few meetings.
Yeah.
And you weren't maths lead at that
No.
point, but then you became maths lead, didn't you?
Yeah.
But I was always on the Logic led like maths hub team. So I always felt like I was involved in decision making, but obviously there's no payment at all,
No.
and we just met every now and then, and I'd get the odd job, and it'd be like, we've got 6 things to do, guys. I'll obviously do most of them because I'm the leader of the subject, and that's fine. But if you could just do that, or you could just do that, or you
Yeah,
could run a
yeah.
competition for the
Exactly
school.
that.
I was involved very, very quickly in the running of a subject in that regard,
Mm.
and then when I went to leave that school, and we'll talk a bit more detail about moving schools in a second. Long story short, though, it was offered as a carrot almost to stay. You can become maths lead.
Mm.
You can become maths lead here, and you can do this, do that, da 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 da. But it wasn't until I actually did move school and went to the school that we ended up with, the school we finished at, where again I moved there. I wasn't immediately leader of maths because we had someone who led maths in the school. Things got jigged around a bit, and then we became maths leads. Both of us joined
Yeah,
together,
joint.
actually just leading it, not hub, just both joint maths leads. And that's been my journey. So I feel like I've always been involved somehow. And most people going through their journey will be involved somehow in the leading of a subject.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think it's uncommon to have that. But I also think it is a good thing. I really do think it is a good thing to be involved at that level and have wider school impact. Because I could have an impact on maths, not just in my classroom, not even just in my year group, but across the school through what we were doing. And I think that's a nice way of doing it where you can lower the burden for everyone. Because maybe it's one meeting every big term, just an hour every big term, you're part of the maths hub, and you've got one job where you just run a competition. I remember we ran a competition for the school.
Yeah.
It doesn't add hours and hours to your workload, but you're involved in the meetings, you can hear what's going on. And if you have ambitions to move into leadership, I think that was a really good way to actually see the nuts and bolts of what goes on
me too.
and understand that even the leader of this maths, although they're fantastic teaching, they're just a normal person, and I could probably do that job.
Well, that's basically what happened to me. Like, so in my first year of teaching, there was someone else who led the logic-led maths hub, and I was put into the maths hub because I made it very clear that that was my passion. And then in that first year of getting that little bit of dripped experience, it did allow me in my second year of teaching to become the leader of that maths hub. And probably in a lot of situations, I don't think if you're in your second year of teaching, you probably wouldn't be the leader of maybe one of the core subjects,
yeah.
genuinely. But I think they did a really good job of giving that experience, like you said, by being part of the team. It allowed me to very quickly get into the role of, okay, cool, I'm going to lead the whole subject then.
Did you get a TLR when you led it?
Yeah, I did.
Right.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've actually always had a TLR for leading maths. And
Yeah.
like you, no, this is not true. I was going to say I wouldn't have done it without TLR. I would have done earlier on in my career.
You would have,
I just wouldn't have thought anything
That's why
about
I
it.
asked, because I knew you
Yeah,
would have just done
nowadays I'd be like, no, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. It's ridiculous. But no, I did get the smallest amount you can get on a TLR3. I got that to lead maths.
So can I ask something about when you led maths then? There are people listening now at whatever point in the career they're at, maybe they're already middle leaders or they're thinking of becoming a middle leader. We did a whole episode on, is middle leadership worth it? It's worth a listen for you guys. But I'm looking now as you're now at the point in your career where you've gone past the initial pushback from interviews and thinking like you might not be good enough. You've got your job, your confidence is built back up again. You feel like you're in your zone now. You're literally leading maths after gaining experience. Did you find at that point that you felt like you hit a bit of a wall in terms of two things really? One thing of how do you keep progressing from there without potentially going into leadership and losing time out of your class, but also how did you deal with as a leader dictating to other people to do jobs where they're not getting time or money to do so?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were stepping your toe into that? Oh, he doesn't know, he doesn't understand, they're just in leadership, they're out the classroom, you don't understand anything anymore? Or did you really struggle with that?
I really struggled with the idea that I don't know if this answers your question properly, but I really struggled with the idea that I was getting paid a TLR to
You're
lead
right.
maths, and then was also asking other people to do stuff
That's what
to
I
lead
mean.
maths. So I basically, as much as I could, I didn't. I mean, you probably remember,
Yeah, you did
I
everything.
took the burden on as much as I possibly could, and I spent so much time
Mm.
doing, because I was passionate as well, and I was genuine. I probably would have done it anyway. Like I was like itching to get into that role because I was like, oh my god, I want to make these changes. All this new pedagogy I've been learning about maths, and all this new Singaporean approach stuff, and this maths mastery, which is brand new. It's all coming out. All this white rose stuff that was just coming out then. It was all fantastic and new, and I was dying to spread this across the school. But yeah, I very much felt awkward of the idea of. I still felt like an imposter at the end of the day. I
Yeah.
was probably the youngest member of that team, other than you,
Mm.
and. So I was a bit like, I'm telling these teachers that have been doing it for 25 years on how to teach maths. Like it is a bit awkward, but also I'm super passionate and I'm going to do it anyway. I imagine it did, like you said in the last episode, it probably rubbed them up, rubbed them up the wrong way sometimes. Of like, who's this guy? He's been teaching for 1 year and he thinks he knows the best. Like we've seen this all before. This was here 20 years ago, pal.
Yeah.
And we know this works. It's
But then
great.
adding to that, the issue is if you're then dictating them to do jobs and stuff, I can understand how most people who get into that middle leadership position think, well, what is the point? All I'm doing here is massively increasing my workload or giving more workload to other people
Yeah,
who aren't even
100%.
compensated at all for it. It's just
100%.
really awkward. I think people really struggle with that. So I think it's interesting to hear your point of view, like how you dealt with leading a subject, because we both led subjects, both led core subjects, both led maths.
Mhm.
And for me personally, when you get to that point of leading maths in a school, my up there as my top priorities was to not burden my staff with extra responsibility.
Yeah.
I felt like I always had to have in the front of my head, I'm the leader of maths. Maths is the most important thing to me. It's my job. I'm the leader of maths, but I can't forget that there's also a leader of English. And within English, there's a leader of writing.
Sure.
There's a leader of reading. There's a leader of PE. There's a leader of geography. There's a leader of history. New Ofsted frameworks come out. We might get deep dived into history. The history lead's really worried and is saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. I remember as a teacher thinking, what? I've got, okay, now history's got to change, and geography's got to change, and this got to change. So as a leader, I felt that burden of, I need to make things as easy as possible for my staff.
Yep.
And that, to be honest with you, can lead to increased workload for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's tricky.
I didn't think that though at the start. I just thought I fell into that trap of being like, I've been given maths to lead, therefore that is the most important thing, and everything that I think we need to change in maths is of highest priority. And I absolutely put that burden on our staff, 100%, which is why we think people probably were like, oh, roll their eyes. I didn't even think twice about it. I was like, well, I'm doing all this extra time. If anything, I'm still doing the lion's share of stuff here. I'm just asking you guys to implement these 7 things.
yeah.
And really, it's like what you're asking staff to implement 7 things. What are you talking about? That, of course, that's crazy burden of workload and cognitive load on them. I just didn't understand that. So I learned that the hard way. And then I definitely, after probably like 3 or 4 years, so it still took a long time, I definitely then flipped the other way. And when we were maths leads, I probably just absorbed this like attitude from you, which was everything we do, and you were really, really good at this. Everything we do, no matter how passionate we are about changing it, what impact is it actually going to have on staff, and is it the right time to do it?
Exactly.
In the global thing, like I remember before, I was like, we should make these changes to maths at our current school
because it's better for maths.
Because it's better,
and that's the end of
and
the
that was
discussion.
that, and that was it, right? And you were like, yeah, but we are also literally rewriting our entire afternoon curriculum right now, so let's not do this change yet.
Exactly.
And I remember being like, yeah, but it's better for maths. But ultimately, that was the right choice.
Yeah.
It was not a good choice to put that workload burden on the staff. And unfortunately, not everyone thinks like that.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening, like you said earlier, is you normally get the situation of every single subject lead thinks their subjects are the most important. They're all making changes simultaneously.
Yeah.
And then being like, oh, why is no one doing this one thing I've asked them? It's because they've also been asked one thing by that guy, that person, that person, that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not one thing from their perspective. It's only one thing from your perspective as a subject lead. And you just have to, I think if you're going to be a good leader, and that's something you want to do in your career, you really have to take into consideration that holistic view.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree.
Definitely.
So we're both at the point in our careers where we're kind of hitting our stride now. We've been in our school. We got a job at the same school. We've been in there for 2 or 3 years. We lead maths. It sounds like it's all rosy. What made you want to move school? Because if you look at the grand scheme of things, I was a teacher for only 2 years, and you were a teacher for only 3 years before we decided let's move schools. And it wasn't that we were pushed out, it wasn't that we were forced out. We both decided we don't want to work in this school anymore.
Yeah.
What was the trigger for you? Like, what was it to do with the job? Obviously, you stayed in teaching, so it can't be.
Sure.
What happened?
For me, I became more savvy to teaching environments, workload, pressure, the way staff should or shouldn't be treated, contracts, all the stuff we tell all of our listeners to like be really aware of now. I became more aware of all that stuff and came to the conclusion that the school I was working was not really the environment or not the leadership style that I appreciated or liked.
Yep.
Even though I wasn't necessarily in the firing line myself, I'd seen members of staff and colleagues who I cared about by this point because they're more than colleagues, they're friends at this point because you spend so much time with them. I'd seen them being mistreated or treated differently or unfairly even to me, and it's like, and I could have easily gone like, well, I did the right things, so I'm fine. I'm in the good book, so whatever. Turned a blind eye to it, but I was like, actually, no, they're not being treated nicely. This is toxic. It was the first instance to me of, this is like toxic management or toxic leadership. Like, it's not kind what they're doing. And I saw staff get pushed out or pushed to the brink of quitting their jobs because they're so upset because they feel like they've been harassed or bullied or whatever they felt like. Their experience wasn't nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool. I don't want to work for people like
And
that.
it wasn't isolated.
No.
If it was one issue, you might think, well, that person might be taking this the wrong way. It was
Maybe
repeated. How many women of a certain age with huge experience who'd been at that school, that particular school as well, for so long, ended their career crying every other week, feeling that they were being pushed out because they were.
Yeah, because they were.
And it's like, okay, there's only so much that can happen when, I look at that and I think, well, that will be me one day. If you want to be selfish about this, if it's not enough for you that there are other people who you care about who are being treated this way, if that's not enough for you, at least think to yourself, well, there'll be one day where you're the person who's that now, who's too expensive, who's too experienced, who's too set in their ways, is too much of a problem to just have turnover again. Let's get a new one.
So alongside that was pay as well, because it was an academy and a lot of schools were being academized at the time. I just didn't really like the pay structure, and I was like, the scope for me here as just being paid for the job I do is just worse because of the way the pay structure now works. And I was like, I'd rather just go work in a school that just pays people fairly and properly.
Let's be really clear on what the pay scale, what happened. Because if you think about the national pay scales that are given as, you can go to any union website and get it.
Yeah.
It's national pay scales and there's rungs through how much you should earn at each stage of your career.
Yeah.
Academies could come in and do their own pay scales. So what this academy did was, when it became an academy, one of the first things it did was add an extra rung between each one.
Yeah.
It's like a halfway point.
Mm-hmm.
And when you finished your NQT year, whether you were amazing or not, you went up half a rung. And it was like, why? Well, just because that's what we do here.
That's our policy.
That's our policy. It's it. That's it. Whatever, you go to this new imaginary rung in between. So you were $2,000 off straight away. You were $2,000 off where you should have been. If you were just in a locally maintained school, a local authority school, you'd be $2,000 better off. From then on, it was down to performance, and the most you could jump is 2 points.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind they've halved it, so a 2-point jump is just an old normal jump. So where you would go to be, you started on 1 as an NQT, finished your NQT year, you went to 1.5, not 2. Mm-hmm. Finished your year after NQT, you go to 2.5. Even if you've done the best possible performance management that you could have done whatsoever, you go to 2.5. So you're capped again, half behind. Every single year, you're losing 2 or 3 grand based on where you would have been if you're just in a local school. Yeah. It compounds. People used to think, oh, well, I'm just missing out once. I'm just missing out a couple of grand in the first year. You're missing out a couple of grand every single year, and that's for every single teacher in the school. So it was a huge cost-saving exercise for the trust, who were taking so much more money than they would have if they just followed the national scales, and it didn't sit right with us.
No, yeah, it just bothered me. It bothered me.
And that's why I left, and that's why obviously the teacher, the head teacher, after I had the discussion with them, went to the governors and said, "Oh, he left because of money. He wanted more money."
Yeah.
And that was the only reason,
greedy.
apparently. So like,
yeah,
no problem.
Yeah.
It's funny that, because it's weird. I don't think they realised that we knew people on the board of governors who then, when the board of governors meeting finished, came to me and said, "Oh, it's weird. They said that you left because of that."
They left because you were greedy and you wanted more money and didn't want to work here, even though you'd literally gone to them and said, "By the way, I don't want to work here because the working conditions aren't great and I don't like this." Everything we've just explained.
The 2-hour exit interview apparently was just 2 hours of me saying money really slowly, and no other reason. Because why else would you tell the governors that there's some inherent reasons why you might believe?
But you live and learn.
You do.
Genuinely, you live and learn, and you can't tar everyone with the same brush. Is that the right phrase?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I even look back at the like this sounds like a ridiculous thing to say right now, because it sounds like it probably, oh, he's just bitter. I actually don't really hold any resentment at all. When we talk about these things, I say what happened.
Yeah.
But I don't day to day think, well, bloody hell. I left.
It's just what happened.
That was my reaction to that. I just got out of there, because otherwise I'd be saying the same thing and living that. So you've got control as well. Like, if you're in a school environment you don't want to be in for whatever reason, go. Yeah, and I told them, not because I was being a dick. I told them because I wanted them to understand what's literally happening. Because if I was running an establishment and people like us thought, well, I want to leave, I'd want to know why, because I want to keep on to them.
Yeah. Because then you've given the balls in their court. Then they can either think, oh wow, I didn't intend that for that to happen. I'm going to change some things, or it's for them to go, yeah, okay, yeah. And in that case, I don't care. I don't care either way. I'm leaving. I'm just letting you know, if you don't want this to continue to happen, this is what's made me make the decision. If you don't care about that, then cool. That's up to you. Thumbs up. See you later.
That was the frustrating thing for me, was I had like a literally 2-hour conversation. And I had to hype myself up for it, because I said I'm going to be completely honest with you and explained all of the reasons we've just outlined. And at the end of that 2 hour, the thing that really kind of put me down a bit with the point was when they said, "What if we offer you maths leadership next year?" And I was like, and then people listening now, and I can't express enough how within that 2 hour period, I explained that one of the main reasons I want to leave is because I can't see me working up the ladder in this school because I see what happens.
Yeah.
And I know that if I become maths lead, I've seen it happen where the timeout to run maths goes every single week. Oh, sorry. Oh, just
Yeah,
this week. We've got to get rid of that cover. Oh, yeah, sorry. We just got to do that. I've seen what happens repeatedly as a pattern, and you're not suggesting anything will change. So why on earth do you think that I'd want to now? Oh, you've just offered me it. Forget everything I just said. Let's do it. I felt like that's when I kind of gave up at the end of the conversation.
And don't forget, you'd also, because I remember you telling me this, you'd also seen the fact that other people had also been promised similar things that weren't delivered on.
Yeah.
They had been promised things to stay and then not given that thing. So you were like, I can't even trust this.
Yeah. And I said that to them,
Yeah.
not even harshly. I just said, look, I used the name. I said, you said that to this person and that happened. Oh, yeah, but that was because of that. I was like, yeah, so I think what will happen is you'll just have another reason that you can say because like you can have the best of intentions even. You might even really mean what you're saying right now, but I've seen the track record and the way stuff is run here, and I don't want to be here anymore. And I wasn't expecting them to turn around and say, oh, we'll completely change it and you can stay. I'm just another person. I'm a cog in the wheel. But I thought it might be at least interesting for them to hear. It sounds as if it kind of fell on deaf ears.
No, definitely. I think it did, ultimately. But that's up for them to decide, isn't it? So let's move on, because that's I think we get the idea of that school and the fact that we moved. So once you moved, did it change your perspective of the job? Because I imagine at that point, your perspective of the job, your only experience of the job was, oh, this is actually a little bit toxic, and I've seen people get pushed out of this. I've had a negative enough experience that I want to leave the school. Did your perspective on teaching and the job change when you moved to your new school?
I didn't think at that point teaching as a whole was broken and would never work.
Right.
So my perspective didn't change. The reason I changed schools and didn't change careers because I believed that there were different ways of doing it. So honestly, my perspective did not change. What it did was confirm what I was thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
Because what I got when I moved to school, and this is the school I stayed in for the rest of my career as a teacher, was the difference in trust, in my opinion. And I don't mean trust because it's not a trust, not an academy trust. I moved to a local authority school. Whether that had anything to do with it, whatever, I think there are loads of really good trusts out there, by the way. Let me just make that really clear now. I just think it's easier for trusts to go down the route of toxicity and siphoning money, etc. But yeah, what I found in my school that I moved to, and I'd say this to anyone now who's in their career thinking, this school, I love teaching, but this school, man, it is always to try something else. Because I don't know about you, we both ended up there. The trust that I felt as a professional was at first disarming. I wanted to go to the head and be like, oh, I've done this, by the way. And he'd be like, okay, I don't care. Like in the nicest way possible. And the workload really, really, really reduced because, you know, I vividly remember being sat in a staff meeting once in like one of the first staff meetings, the first term. And someone said, oh, for marking now, we're going to do this instead of that. And I remember thinking both of the this and that were like 1/4 of what I was expected to do before. I was like, are we...
I don't have to...
Okay, I was like, right, that's great. And then like 2 or 3 people in the staff meeting were like, no, come on. It's going to take an extra 10 minutes every day. It's just not acceptable. And I was like, is this the same?
Yeah.
I'm like chomping at the bit for that to be okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've been indoctrinated to think that you must do loads of stuff all of the time, always. And it's the only way you can do stuff. The attitude changed. It was about impact and workload was taken into account and well-being was taken into account. And it just felt like I was surrounded by people who actually really did care about the teachers and trusted the teachers. And that transformed it for me.
The first school we worked at, right, just for comparison's sake as well, but for that analogy, it was culture and normal, right, that at 6 o'clock when the school closed, all of the teachers were leaving with their box of marking. I remember that was like the club. I remember like thinking, oh, who am I going to meet up with on the door on the way out today? And it'd be like 3 other teachers that are now my mates. And we'd be walking out with at least one of our boxes of marking of books at 6 o'clock that we still haven't done for some reason.
Yeah.
And that was normal. And I genuinely, I was indoctrinated into thinking, oh, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
That's just what teaching is. I'll take my marking home. And some days I'd take home 3 boxes of marking because for some reason, between 3:30 and 6 p.m., I didn't manage to get any marking done. I was doing something. I don't know what the hell I was doing looking back. Yeah. Imagine a lot of it was probably just being inefficient, to be honest with you.
Well, no, but some of it, but still.
Yeah, but still, some of it was just like, what? This is
mental
situations. Yeah, when I agree. When I went to this new school, when I went to the school we worked at most recently, the one we've left, I was like, is this all they do?
Not in a bad way.
No, not in a bad way. I was like, because all they do was actually probably more like just a normal workload, which is still hilarious over the years. I was like, we can decrease some of this.
Yeah.
But at first, I was like, comparatively, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be here till 6. No one left there. Like that school closed at 5:30.
I was going to say that school wasn't even open at 6.
No, it was closed at 5:30, and very rarely were a bunch of people actually leaving at 5:30. Yeah, it was.
And how often from what I've seen, I can tell you now, I'm not even exaggerating. I know it's not nice to hear sometimes when you're so busy, but I honestly didn't ever take marking home.
No, I didn't
I,
either.
I just
No,
didn't. It wasn't a thing.
no.
And my attitude ended up being, if I would have took marking home, I won't, because it's just a line and I've done enough stuff.
Yeah, no,
And
fair
that
enough.
was also like, no one really. That was like, yeah,
I
obviously.
only had one rule that changed that in my head, which was I did my big right marking. So when they did
Oh,
independent rights, I
writing,
did at
yeah,
home. And to be honest with you, I probably could have done something at school, but I chose. I was like,
yeah,
I would rather sit at home and have like completely protected time. Like
yeah,
it's not, no one's gonna interrupt me,
yeah.
or I can just do this.
So you probably went home early sometimes.
Almost
Like,
definitely,
like
because I
you would
didn't
have
have
done
that
it for
marking.
another hour between 4 and 5.
Exactly that.
But you went home at 4, knowing
Exactly
you're
that.
like, I'm just choosing to do
Compounded that time up for the weekend. I'd be annoyed about it every single time still. Oh,
Yeah.
for God's sake, I'm these stupid big rights.
stuff.
But like, that was the one thing I chose. But I never, ever, my whole time there took a single book home to mark other than those independent rights.
Yeah.
Never, not once.
No, it's great. And I just wanted to just spend a minute just talking about, that school, and how I'll be forever grateful, personally, about how we kind of were able to do what we felt like we needed to do.
Yeah.
And I think more pressing for me personally was, I felt comfortable enough to raise things that I thought were issues,
Mm.
and not be so worried that it's going to end up me being targeted and putting on a support plan because I dared to talk against
I
the
agree.
establishment. How
I
dare
agree.
I? It felt like it was, and you know what? I probably took it too far sometimes. I probably raised stuff too often. Maybe I probably was, at some points, it came across the wrong way, and I genuinely do apologize for that. But I think it's better for that to happen sometimes
Mm.
than for a staff team to constantly think, oh, I'm worried about this. I think
Can't-
this is awful,
yeah.
but I can't say anything.
Can't challenge it.
It was just a room full of normal people who
Exactly.
understood life.
Exactly. And taking it one step further, right, and I've realised this more on reflection recently, given the fact we speak to a lot more people now, including lots of other people kind of on social media for various reasons. I realised how lucky we were now. The fact that we started that school, we're already with an established tutoring business,
Yeah.
where some head genuinely would have been turned off by the fact that we were just doing other stuff outside of education, talking to other parents and kids, interacting with out of their control, and they just wouldn't have liked that. They were chill about that. And then also we started a podcast when we still worked there. They were chill about that. Like, they were nice people. They were normal, nice people. And they, if anything, praised us for that. They were like, they would ask, oh, how's your podcast going?
Yeah.
Or, how's your tutoring business? Is it doing really well? Like, they were like actively interested in it. And I think I took that for granted, having spoke to a lot of people recently, where I'm like, you know what? That we really, really did just have a lovely ride there.
And you see more and more on social media, like even big presences on social media, they've literally spoken about how Mr. Firth online, very funny, lots of the skits he does, really good stuff, and built up a huge following online.
Yeah.
And he did something recently about how he's not allowed to film in school anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's been a bunch of other people, I think Organised Educator, teaching with Mrs. F in Scotland, they spoke about how they're not allowed to film in school anymore. This is a thing that's constant. There's lots of reasons, but I'm not even literally going to get into that debate right now.
No.
The fact of the matter is that we were in a school where it was very much seen as absolutely acceptable that we can do stuff outside of the classroom. If we adhered to rules, obviously we never remotely did anything when children were in the building, ever, because I just think that's bad personally.
Yeah.
I really don't like that. But we followed strict rules, and they trusted us, and we trusted them. Like, I remember we started the podcast, we didn't tell them we were starting it.
Yeah.
Like, people say, oh, isn't that really bad practice? I was like, do you know what? In a way, but we've got that trust, and we didn't go over the line, and we knew that through the relationship we made with them, and then we didn't hide it. We said to them, oh, we got this, by the way. Like, it was more like, this is happening. And they weren't saying, they were just like, oh, that's okay. They obviously wanted to make sure nothing bad was coming of it. And they were like, well, obviously don't mention it. I was like, of course we're not going to do that. But we had trust.
The only thing our deputy head said to us was like, cool, can you teach me how to do it? Because I want to start one as well with my son. Like, he wants to make a podcast. It was like, there's nothing bad about this at all.
Yeah.
But it could have been, some people would absolutely say, oh, they've said it to us in the past. And
Messages.
they've messaged us being, oh, if you do you get in trouble for saying that on your podcast in school?
Yeah.
Like,
For saying what?
For saying what? Speaking the truth about the education system. Like, what are you talking about? No.
Yeah.
Because they also think that.
Yeah, exactly.
We sit around with the head teacher and deputy head literally saying how much something sucks in the education system and how it's affecting all of us negatively. We have that conversation with them.
Yeah.
So no is the answer.
They weren't very precious
So,
about it.
Dylan, I feel like we've established, I think, that we had a really nice few years
Yep.
at that school. But at the end of the day, we've just sat here and said about how cushy we had it, how they had the best possible experience of teaching, this loveliest school, and yet we're sat here and we don't teach anymore.
Yeah.
What happened? I want to go to the end of that journey.
Yeah, because I actually genuinely think that the fact I found that school, where I don't think I could have moved to another school and it'd be equally as fun and enjoyable and the equal amount of trust. I genuinely don't think I could have moved to another school and found more trust and more freedom to do things. I don't think that existed.
We had the best situation already.
I think we literally did. And the fact that I still didn't feel like I wanted to continue doing the job, at that point, I could safely say it's a job thing. At the end of the time, my first school,
Mm.
it wasn't a job thing. I want to try somewhere else. I love teaching, so I don't want to carry on. Because I still felt that way here, I was like, do you know what? It's a job thing, clearly.
Yeah.
And I could just stay in this job forever, and I could be in the best school possible. And it's just still not. It's just too much stuff that I still think, like you said, I still think it's just a nonsense. And it's nothing to do with the leadership. It's nothing to do with the people who are working in the building.
Mm.
It's just the literal very nature of the job, the amount of funding you get to execute the job, letting children down through no fault of your own
Mm.
because they're not getting the support they need. I couldn't do that anymore.
Do you feel like there was a final straw moment, or was it just a slow building up of those understandings of the systemic failures that made you eventually just climax to a point where you're like, I've tipped over this line that's in my head now, and now I
Mm.
just don't think I should do it? Or was there a moment that you can think that thing happened and that was it for me? I'm done.
I don't have an exact moment. I just don't. Like, it just built up over time because I
Mm.
spoke up. We went part time. That's a big thing in our story we've not mentioned here. Like, we went part time. I was very lucky enough to go on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I won a chunk of money.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, do you know what? We've got our tutoring business on the side. We're making a bit of money there. There's a bit of leeway. We didn't have children at that point. Do you know what I mean? It was like, if any time is now to free up some more time to try some other stuff. And that helped us snowball, right?
Yeah.
From then, even going part time, I was like, I reset and I was like, oh, this is perfect. And then again, slow
That wore off.
wore off. Yeah. And there was no one exact point, but I think to me, it got to the point where I just, if I had to pick one point, it would be when we're sat in like pupil progress meetings
Mm.
and we're doing stuff that I understand why it's happening. And I understand that we get pupil premium budget. We need to focus on these certain types of children. And we're looking at demographics and we're looking at outcomes and we're looking at baselines and expected lines and below lines and greater depth lines. And we're looking at children around the skirtings of the outs. They got to a point where I actually just couldn't pretend anymore that I think that's the way to do stuff.
Yeah.
And it was no personal slight on anyone because I know the pressures that schools are under to get children to a certain level and to get X amount of people through the SATs paper and to get them to expected. I know the pressure of closing that gap between pupil premium percentage achievement and everyone else percentage. I get all of that. I know why we focus on stuff. But for me as the class teacher, it did get to the point where I was like, oh, I am just going to manufacture this now and not be the intervention that I would have planned just based on what children need. Or I really want you to focus on these children who are close to expected. No, because they're not now more important people.
Mm.
They're closer to an arbitrary line we've drawn and we need to get them past that line, fine. But their progress, 5% progress for them gets them over a line which looks great on paper. But their 5% progress is genuinely not more important to me than the 5% progress of literally anyone else on the scale.
Yeah.
I want all the children to progress. So if I think
Yeah.
if I think there's something that's a need that pops up, I want to be able to give it to them. And I personally, that was a big thing for me where I thought, do you know what? This is the way teaching is for lots of reasons. And there'll be lots of people who argue and say it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And we can have that discussion, whatever. Me personally, I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to do this kind of thing anymore.
Yeah.
I would like to just try and maybe help as many children as possible and just step out of that. So if I had to pick a point, it'd be that, but it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew. And we talked about a million times. A big thing for us was we were lucky enough where, well, I say lucky, we worked really hard to do it. We built income streams around it.
Yeah.
And it just got to the point, didn't it, where everything added up.
Exactly. Gave us that choice. But ultimately, the choice wouldn't have been made if the other things didn't happen. So, I still made the choice because I was fundamentally just not happy enough with the job.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and you started making other income streams,
Yeah.
genuinely not because you wanted an extra £500 a month. Like, obviously that's
part of it.
nice,
That's
right?
part of it,
No,
yeah.
obviously, obviously that's nice, right?
Yeah.
Obviously you want that bit, but it's not going to be life changing.
No.
And again, I think a big part of us when we think, well, why are you working so late? Why are you doing that extra? Because again, long term, we're thinking it just gives you more freedom.
Yeah, definitely.
And if it grows and grows and grows, actually, what I do want is freedom to do what I want to do.
For sure. And I'm sure you're the same here, but I'm just going to talk for myself. I am extremely passion led. You know what I'm like
Yeah.
in terms of like how much it impacts whether I want to do something or not.
Yeah.
I'm really, 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 really passion led. And I think it just got to the point, if I can try and summarize this in a better way than maybe when we last talked about this, it got to the point where too many parts of the job of teaching were just a buzzkill for me. They were a drain. They didn't fulfill my need for like being a passion driven person enough that it kind of killed the whole job for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't over that. If there's a passion quota in my mind that I need to achieve to feel happy in life, I was no longer hitting that, even though I was still passionate about certain aspects of the job. Like, you put me in front of some kids, and I'm in my element.
We did an assembly
Genuinely, we
last
did an
week.
assembly last week for Mathsu because our old school is actually going to be is using Mathsu, and we went in and we did an assembly because we know those kids, and it was the best 10 minutes I've had in the last month because I just thrive off of that experience of being with the kids, and we were making them laugh, we were being a bit silly, but showing them real things and doing a bit of maths learning. I love that, and I'll probably always love that. And get me back in the classroom right now, I'd enjoy it right now. But overall, all of the other stuff was pulling my passion meter down too far. That it was just, I was just ultimately deflated with the job. It bored me. I was getting to the point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't get up excited anymore. That little thing, oh, I get to see the kids. Yeah, but then I think about the other 12 things that just crush every part of enjoyment I'm going to have in my day because I've got to spend 4 hours doing a bunch of stuff that I either hate doing or don't even agree with doing, and I'm going to have to do it anyway because that's just the way the system is.
Exactly.
When it got to that point, that's when I was like, I guess I have to quit. I have to.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm in a position where I can, so I have to do it now.
Yeah.
If I wasn't in a position where I could, I probably had to have carried on and just been a bit annoyed about the fact that I was in that position. But I could quit, so I was like, okay, this is the time then. You've got to do it.
Yeah, I echo everything you just said. Last question, then, I suppose, from me. Having said everything you just said, do you think you'll ever go back into teaching?
I think if I'm going probability-wise, I reckon there's like a 70% chance that at some point in my career, I'll be back in front of a class being employed to teach kids.
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe it's higher for me as well.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think I can do the rest of my career. Like, in I don't know what the context will be, but I want to teach lessons still. I want to teach lessons to a class of children. Like, it's
funny,
really fun. I loved doing the assemblies.
Yeah.
I even we did a webinar last week for Mathsu and talked about maths fluency. Even doing that to fellow colleagues, I loved that. It's still teaching. It's still performing in a way. I really enjoyed it.
You were passionate.
I was so passionate because
Genuinely.
it was fun. Like, it went in the zip. Do you know what I mean? I really, really liked it. I love delivering, help. I like serving people in that way because it feels like what I'm good at, and it feels like I'm helping other people as well. It's like, it's the ultimate job in terms of that fulfillment and also what my specialism is.
Yeah.
So the idea that I finish my career, my working career, and I don't go back to doing that again makes me really sad. Like, I don't want that to be a fact. So I think in some aspects, somehow I'll be doing some kind of teaching. I hope anyway. Well, I just will in some way.
Yeah, definitely. I think my passion meter needs some time to recoup.
Yeah.
And a big part of that, because I'll never not be in education, and neither will you. Well, this
Yeah,
is always
still heavily
going to be our
education.
world.
Yeah.
A big part of that will be I will never stop fighting for and driving for positive changes in the education space, because those changes ultimately, if they're good changes for education, they're going to make my passion meter go back up and get me back in the classroom. So when I can see some positive change come in, it might make me think, oh, do you know what? I reckon I'll give this another go now.
Yeah.
Maybe right now, what I'm getting from building Mathsu is like satiating my brain's passion meter, because I am loving it so much. Like, so in this private world right now, I'm getting everything I need. But maybe in 5 years' time, when we've kind of completed that project and we're happy where it's at, I might be thinking, I think I need to go back in the classroom for a day a week. I think I need to go back in the classroom for 3 days a week. I think I need to do something else to fulfill that. I don't know.
Start a whole new school.
Start a whole new school. Yeah, literally. Like, I'd probably genuinely love to do that. So yeah, we'll see. That's the fun bit about life, is we're just vibing our way through,
Code vibing our way through.
Vibing our way through life and just doing what we are passionate about, because that's what makes you happy.
Slightly different episode there. I thought it was nice just to go under the covers there and just give people our experience, because I think a lot of people will relate to a lot of the stuff we said, and you guys can understand a bit more about us rather than just the guys who come on and say, I'm not doing a display. I don't want to do some 2 centimeter mono guys like that. Well, actually, do you know what? We've got our own story.
Well, actually, do you know what? I don't want to do a display, and I don't want to do a 2 centimeter backing boarding. So if that's what you remember about me, good. Is that right?
That's
Oh,
right.
and all the other stuff that we just talked about for an hour.
Great, guys, leave us a review. It helps us out massively. Please share it. This sharing of the podcast is one of the biggest things you can do to help us. Hayden, I've not done this in a while.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say before
I do, actually. I think you need to vote in the poll that goes with this episode about who you like more based on what you just heard about us. So vote Hayden.
Seems really harsh.
Vote Hayden. See ya.
Bye.